Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be continuing my journey looking through the IPF rulebook in getting you all ready for your first powerlifting meet, right? So today we're going to be taking a look at the squat in particular. I personally think that it is a great idea to read through the rulebook several times before you even set foot on the platform. That way you're at least familiar with, all of the nuances to what a powerlifting meet is. You'll notice it's 41 pages. We already went through some of it talking about the attire in the last episode that I did. And trust me, I know it's a pain in the neck to go through and read, but the amount of times that it's helped me to know a rule, is too many to count at this point after 10 years of competing and over 30 competitions. But my kind of goal of this is to kind of go through together and point out some things that I think are extra important and maybe overlooked. And that way you don't have to go through on your own. So here we're on page 18 of the IPF technical rule book. As I've stated before, if you are competing in another federation, such as USA Powerlifting or USPA, they're going to have slightly different rule books, but probably very similar. I've glanced at the USPA rule book. I'm very familiar with the USAPL rule book because I used to compete under them. And for the most part, they're very, very similar. So, even watching this video, you should be set with that. This will get you ready for IPF competition and Powerlifting America as well, which is the IPF affiliate of the United States now. Okay, so the first rule here with the squat is the lifter shall face front of the platform. Bar shall be held horizontally across the shoulders, hands and fingers gripping the bar. Hands may be positioned anywhere on the bar, inside or in contact with the inner collars. Okay, so just to explain that, it's pretty self-explanatory. You have to assume a back squat position is essentially what it's saying. Front squat is not allowed, but you are allowed to have either a high bar or low bar position. I do want to make it clear you can either have a false grip where you have your thumb back around the bar, or a true grip on the bar where your thumbs are wrapped. But notice that it says hands and fingers have to be gripping the bar. I have seen people get red lights if they have their hands kind of like this and a finger is not touching the bar. So just make sure you are training to where all of your fingers are at least touching the bar in some capacity. Now, for your first meet at a local competition, are they going to nitpick on this? I doubt it. But if you're planning to move on to higher levels of competition, it's worth knowing. Okay. So it says, after removing the bar from the racks, this is an interesting note. Right? The lifter can be helped out of the rack with the side spotters. I've never seen anyone do this for a squat. It's much more common with a bench press, but understand you can if you want. Then you have to establish the starting position. So the starting position for the squat is going to be where your knees, hips, and the bar are all in line. That's considered the upright position. Knees have to be locked out and your hips have to be through. And at that point, you'll get that start command on the squat. Okay, so, yep, you have to be motionless. Essentially, you just have to show the judges that you are in control of the weight, right? And then you'll get that first command, which, if you aren't aware already, the squat has two commands. One is a start. Then you can go down to depth, and then once you have stood up, they will say rack, and that's when you put it back in the rack. Okay. Before you get that squat command, the start, like I had said, you can move your feet however you want. You can do whatever to get adjusted. But once you get that start command, you cannot adjust your feet again. So Just keep that in mind. Sometimes people get happy feet whenever they walk out a squat. And if you get a start and then you move your feet again, you're going to get a red light. So be aware of that. Let's see. Without penalty. If you don't have your knees locked and your hips through and your chest upright, you may be told to replace the bar by the head judge. Like, they basically just won't give you the start command and they'll say replace. And that's basically them just saying, hey, you're not in a good position, start over. Now, the interesting thing here, and I want to make this very clear, you only have 60 seconds from the time that they say bar is loaded to when you go out and you get the start command. So if they say replace and you have to put it back and re-walk out the squat, understand that is still eating up your 60 seconds, right? So that's probably mostly how I see people time out or run out of time on the 60-second timer, is they kind of dilly-dally getting out there, and then they try and get the weight out, and then the head judge has to re-rack it, and there's not enough time. Okay. Yeah, and the chief referee should tell you why the start signal was not given. I've been told while I was standing with the squat before, they'll be like, knees, knees, and that's how I knew, lock my knees. Okay, scrolling on through here. Upon receiving the signal, you have to bend your knees and lower your body until the top surface of the leg and hip joint is lower than the top of the knee, and you're only allowed one descent. So just to clarify that, we're going to look at depth here with the diagram down below, but this is just saying you cannot like start to go down and then be like, I don't feel right, stand it back up, and then go down again. It has to be one smooth motion down and then one smooth motion up. You can stop on the way up, but you cannot go back down before you stand the weight. Okay. Lifter must recover at will to the upright position, aka be strong enough to lift it. Double bouncing at the bottom is not good. Kind of explain that. When the lifter is motionless in the final position, so you have to stand up and hold it, right? And then the referee will say rack, and then you can put it in. It is heartbreaking to see someone successfully stand up a third squat and then get excited and throw it back in the rack without that rack command, because then it won't count. Right. Signal to rack the bar will consist of a backward motion of the arm. I've been doing this out of habit, right? This number with an audible command, rack. Easy enough. And I like to train myself to just like stand up my squats and hold it before I re-rack it. If you get in enough of a habit, you'll get that rack command while you're naturally pausing anyway, and it works out. Important note here, foot movement after the rack signal will not be cause for failure. So basically, if you get the rack command and then you stumble a little bit, that's okay. They can help you. And sometimes, like if you stand up a heavy squat and you want help getting back in after that rack command, just be like, help, or help me back in. And the spotters are allowed to help you put that weight back in. And they usually do anyway. Okay, so yeah, for reasons of safety, a lifter may request the aid of the spotter and loaders, returning the bar and replacing it to the rack. So there we go. Okay, you do have to stay with the bar though. They will not like take it off of you if you get out from under the bar. You can be disqualified. Usually you'll just get a stern talking to the first time. So understand that. Okay, and then no more than 5, not less than 2 spotters shall be on the platform at any time. Makes sense. That's not a huge deal for us as lifters, right? Okay, so this and the diagram down below is going to be important for us as a lifter, especially if it's your first competition. Causes for disqualification of a squat. So this will help us understand, if something goes wrong, where you may have gone wrong. So first and foremost, you have to listen to commands. This is going to be a theme with this series, right? If you fail to listen to the ref say start and the ref say rack, you will get a red light and it will not count. Okay, double bouncing, as I said, you have to be one smooth motion down, and once you start going up, you cannot go down again. Okay, failure to assume that upright position with the knees locked at the commencement and completion of the lift. So essentially, you have to fully extend your entire body to finish the lift. I've seen people come very, very close and their knees are still not locked, and that doesn't count. Sometimes they'll give you a rack command with that too, and you'll just get red lights. Stepping backward or forward, moving laterally between the commands. So once you get the start and before you get the rack, you're not allowed to move your feet, right? In and around those, you certainly can. And then rocking between the ball and the heel is permitted. So basically, if you get on your toes, your heels, that's going to be okay and not a problem. Okay, failure to bend the knees, lower the body until the top surface of the legs at the hip joint is lower than the top of the knee, as in the diagram. So we're going to look at this diagram. Basically, number 5 is just depth. Okay, contact with the bar or the lifter by the spotters and loaders between the signals. So essentially, if the spotters and loaders grab you, then that's a failure. That makes sense. I've seen people get taken early, and you can go to the officials or the scores table or the jury table, wherever it is. Basically, jury table is going to be at national and international meets. It'll probably be the what's it called? Scoring table. Thank you, goodness. At a local meet that you would go to say basically, hey, they touched me too soon. And if the referees agree, they'll give you a relift at the end of the flight. Okay, contact of the elbows or upper arms with the legs. This is an interesting one because it says slight contact is permitted if there's no supporting. So you have your arms like this to squat. If you squat down and your elbows touch your legs, right? Touching is okay, but if you are physically like pushing against your legs with your elbows, I don't know how someone would do that, but if you are, then that could be a red light. Obviously, dropping or dumping the bar after the completion of the lift. I think this became a big thing with Olympic lifting or CrossFit for a while, where people would just bail on squats, and that can hurt spotters. So please stay with the bar. And then failure to comply with any of the items outlined under rules and performance of the squat. So that's basically just a catch-all for, hey, do all of this. Okay. And then the last thing that we're going to look at here for squat are these diagrams. So they're telling you, hey, the bar has to be placed on your back, as I talked about. It can be high bar, which is over your traps like this guy, or you can lower it down to low bar. Technically, there is an area where it's too low. Now, I've never seen anyone get called for having the bar too low on their back, but I have seen people with the bar so low that it pushes them forward and it unlocks their hips so they can't get the start command from the head referee. So be aware of that. Make sure that you have the bar in a position where you can stand completely upright. And then finally, right, the big elephant in the room with squat. This is proper squat depth, right? Take a look here. Your knee and the crease, which is kind of right here, the very edge of your leg meeting your torso. This has to be below this. And I have seen so many people just confused as to what squat depth is. And here it is for you. It is not parallel of your hamstring. What it is this top part has to be below the knee. So notice like this guy, If I were to hold a ruler across, this would be below. So that is proper squat depth. I know there is controversy as far as squat depth, red lights on squat depth. Hey, I've gotten some tough calls on my squat depth before. It happens, right? You just have to squat as within the parameters as you can. And also keep in mind what's kind of funny. I'll throw this out there. Most federations have this exact same diagram and the same rules for squat depth, but some federations are just really relaxed, or the judges don't know what squat depth is. I'll be blunt about it, right? I've seen multiply lifts, not to call a certain type of lifting out, but it is just really egregious. And sometimes people get away with high squats. It is what it is. But understand, this is the true definition of squat depth. So I would suggest in your training, get a side view with the camera so that you can get exactly this angle and be honest with yourself. Am I hitting proper squat depth in training? Because I've heard way too many people say, oh, I'll hit depth come meet day. And they don't worry about it. And then they end up bombing out on squat depth. Okay, so that does it for squat. Hopefully that helps you all as far as getting prepared. That gave a quick rundown of some of the weird rules, some of the more well-known rules, and hopefully this helps get you prepared for your first powerlifting competition. If that is the case, next time we're going to take a look at the bench press and then the deadlift, and we'll kind of continue to work our way through this long technical rule book from the IPF. So thanks for swinging by. If you like the video, please like and subscribe down below. It means a lot. We're growing quickly, which is exciting. And until next time, happy lifting.